The scandal over her private email server is little more than a
Pain. Relief you can wear. Lidocare. Available now from the makers of Blue Emu.
For many months, Hillary Clinton and her surrogates largely dismissed the scandal over her private email server as little more than a media obsession. But the press faced a different kind of challenge when FBI Director James Comey decided against seeking criminal charges, but publicly scolded Clinton for mishandling classified information. Many news organizations framing the story very differently.
A year-long FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server scandal is over, ending with a devastating account of how the former Secretary of State has systematically misled the American people for 16 months about almost every facet of this scandal.
Hillary Clinton had a big win today. In the sense that this was a major cloud hanging over her head, heading into her convention and trying to launch the fall campaign.
Look, she wasn't indicted today, but she was convicted. Director Comey convicted her of lying repeatedly about not receiving or sending classified markings. So the good news for Hillary Clinton is, and it's true, I think, that the justice professionals will not disagree with Comey, the fact is that she wasn't indicted. And that's the bottom line legally.
But even some on MSNBC were contrasting the FBI chief's condemnation with Hillary's history of denials.
I opted for convenience to use my personal email account, which was allowed.
They were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
I thought it would be easier to carry just one device.
She also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email.
We went through a thorough process to identify all of my work-related emails.
The lawyers doing the sorting for Secretary Clinton in 2014 did not individually read the content of all of her emails.
And we're back with the panel. Heidi, what do you make the way some news organizations focus more on Hillary, quote, beating the rap, and others more on what the head of the FBI had to say in his scathing comments? Don't both deserve equal weight?
You know, I'm going to actually reprimand TV here. I think that the major newspapers actually did appropriately, after Comey's statement, express what that was. You know, that was pretty damning assessment. But TV, a lot of weight to it, yeah. But TV seemed to break along more partisan lines. You know, at Fox, it was the top of the broadcast. At MSNBC, it was more pushed down in the broadcast, and Fox did this immediate analysis of how this is similar to other cases, citing this naval reservist Brian Nishimura. But then it was the reverse after Comey's testimony, where a lot of those talking points were directly addressed, that Nishimura was a very different set of facts, that there was no real precedent in over 100 years for prosecuting on gross negligence alone. So in fairness, both news organizations should give proper coverage of both the statement and the follow-up in terms of him explaining why he came to that conclusion.
Well, I think the right-leaning media emphasized that James Comey knocked down much of what Hillary Clinton has been saying for more than a year. At the same time, I was watching MSNBC that day, and by the middle of the day, many programs weren't even leading with Comey or the FBI. They were leading with the fact that President Obama was out there campaigning with Hillary, and they got to the other stuff later.
Right, or she was given a free pass because the FBI is not bringing or not suggesting criminal charges, even though what the FBI director said is the only reason she's not being charged with criminal charges is because there was no precedent that has been set. He clearly indicted her on mishandling classified information. I think that's troubling because it's the same thing we saw after the Benghazi committee when we found out that she did indeed lie about the narrative that the Obama administration and she was driving about what happened with the terrorist attack from the beginning. That they said it was a protest to a video as opposed to a coordinated, orchestrated attack. And so we keep seeing the media give her a free pass.
But I agree with Heidi that the New York Times and the Washington Post and even the network newscasts were not easy on Hillary Clinton. I mean, sure, the lead is no criminal charges, but there was a lot of focus, at least in those outlets, on Comey's stinging remarks.
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier that nuance is hard for the media, and I think this was another case where you saw that the more responsible accounts of this had to acknowledge it was a good news, bad news story, right? It was certainly better for Hillary than if she had been indicted.
Yes, we can all agree on that.
And it does close a certain chapter, that being the active FBI investigation chapter of this scandal. But the story is not over, and absolutely it revealed a lot of very damning things about Hillary Clinton's conduct and contradicted a lot of her statements, and I think that was acknowledged in the more balanced coverage of this.
So Hillary Clinton didn't talk to the media about this for several days, and then after the awful and heartbreaking tragedy in Dallas, the next day, which was Friday, She did short 5 minutes or so interviews with CNN, MSNBC, and ABC about the Dallas ambush. Each one got a couple of questions in about the email investigation. Here she is with CNN's Wolf Blitzer.
You acknowledge you were extremely careless.
Well, I think that Director clarified that comment to some extent, pointing out that some of what had been thought to be classified apparently was not.
He didn't change his basic view of her carelessness. You cover Hillary Clinton. Should the media insist that she hold a full-blown news conference and address this extraordinary event where the presumptive Democratic nominee was lectured by the head of the FBI?
If there was ever a more compelling set of circumstances for Hillary Clinton to hold a news conference, it was this event, and it didn't happen. Now, a lot of people have this has prompted a lot of people to try and investigate, uncover why this is. Apparently she has some kind of personal hang-up dating back 20 years to when she held a news conference and tried to clear up Whitewater, which never led to any charges, but it didn't do the job, the pink press conference. Yeah. But to me, the more troubling explanation is that she's just personally not a good format for her, and that is not acceptable. And I do worry, as a member of the media who's been through a few administrations, about what precedent this sets, because frankly, it started under the Bush administration in terms of less and less media access. It got way worse, from what I understand, under Obama, and now, absolutely, you bet this is going to set a precedent for how, if she gets into the White House, she may deal with the media.
Let me ask you this, Lisa. Some conservative commentators really beat up in a very personal way on James Comey, a guy who was the Deputy Attorney General in the Bush administration, a pretty rock-solid reputation as a career prosecutor, because he didn't urge an indictment.
Well, I think it's frustrating to look at the facts, at least that we know, and then look at the fact that they're not bringing or not suggesting charges, and it's frustrating. But I think you have to respect the rule of law and respect Comey's investigation and the FBI's investigation. But I think what is frustrating as Republicans is the unequal treatment that we continue to see in the media. I mean, take, for example, Donald Trump issued a statement after the Dallas shootings. I think it was over 400 words, multiple paragraph statement. Yeah. Washington Post, Daily Beast drew one word, and Daily Beast even, and he drew, it was a very measured statement. I think it was more presidential than what we saw from President Obama or even Attorney General Lynch. And they took out one word and put it in the same category as a right-wing host that equated the Black Lives Matter movement to the KKK. But we look at the gravitas of what's happening with the Hillary email server and scandal, and there's this genuine feeling that people are missing the magnitude of the national security implications.
On the email, Donald Trump also said that James Comey was part of a rigged system, so he went after the FBI director. And then he said that Hillary Clinton tried to bribe Loretta Lynch, and this had to do with a New York Times piece quoting Democrats close to her as saying that maybe she'd consider keeping Lynch as Attorney General if she wins the election. So what did you make of the coverage of that?
Well, I think Donald Trump also, spent a couple of seconds going after Hillary in substantive terms on this issue, and then said, I'm bored of criticizing Hillary Clinton. Let's just all agree that she's crooked. And for a lot of Republicans, that was what was shocking, that he would not make this argument in a really clear way that might win over a lot of voters who have been troubled by the trust issues around Hillary. That, I think a lot of Republicans who want Donald Trump to be a better candidate are frustrated that he's not making a more articulate case.
Well, there was a rally where he read more extensively.
I agree.
Where Trump read more extensively from Hillary Clinton's comments, but he also was taking on Loretta Lynch and James Comey. All right, Molly Ball, Lisa Booth, Heidi Presbella, we'll see you in a few minutes. After the break, covering the killings in Dallas, Louisiana, and Minnesota. Has it been constructive or just plain polarizing? We'll continue that conversation later. The inside story on why you're seeing far less Donald Trump in television interviews.